Hey everybody, Thornbrake here. I just got something really awesome in the mail, and so I thought I would show you. This big box just showed up from Chaosium. Chaosium is the company who produced the ElfQuest role-playing game back in 1984, and at the end of 2024, they did a Kickstarter to produce a deluxe 40th anniversary edition of the game. So I'm gonna unbox this right now for the first time with all of you. So the folks who backed the Kickstarter, probably know a little bit more about what this is all about. If you didn't, the ElfQuest role-playing game, like I said, came out in '84. It's been out of print for a long time, but Warp Graphics teamed back up with Chaosium to produce it as a pretty much a straight reprint of the original game. It's part of their Classic series, and they've done this for several of their other games at Chaosium. But because it was a Kickstarter and there was the opportunity to do stretch goals, it allowed us to kind of add some extra content. So it is the classic game, but it's juiced up a little bit. And so I'm excited to show you some of the things that are in the box. So got the box top opened. Lots of packing paper in here. I could tell it's well packed because nothing is moving around. Oh wow, it's double packed. So even better. I know damage is always a cause for concern during shipping, and I can't imagine that anything in here is going to be damaged with how well this is packaged up. So definitely have a knife or a letter opener or something to get this cardboard open. All right, so you ready to see it? Let's see if we can get the good look at it without my ring light reflection. You guys, I gotta say, something that's really awesome is this. That's me. I got to actually help contribute to some of the new material that's found in the game, and help with putting it all together and promoting the Kickstarter on the ElfQuest side of things. So yeah, it's kind of special because I've been an ElfQuest fan for 30 plus years at this point. So the box is 2 inches thick, whereas the original box was only 1 inch thick. And that's because not only does this contain the original game books and materials, but it also includes all the supplements that came after that were not included in the original box, plus some other goodies that are new to this deluxe edition here. So again, I'm gonna use my knife here and just gently score this plastic so we can get into the actual box. I'm trying to do this without actually damaging the box. So peeling off the plastic here. It is a really sturdy box, so it should last for a very long time. The original box I still have sitting on the shelf over there from the copy that I got back in the 80s. So it's held up pretty well. So here we go, we're gonna open. By the way, this is an awesome piece of art from Wendy Pini that I've always loved, and it's just very much got the spirit of adventure going on in it. So there's the box top open. First thing in the box is this what is in the box little sheet here. And so it basically just goes over what you could expect. It also has something very important. It has got the simplified rules for gameplay. Now, back in the 80s when the original game was produced, role-playing games were maybe a little bit more crunchy, as the RPGers say it, meaning that it was kind of rules dense and rules heavy, and maybe a little bit combat focused, because that's what a lot of RPGs are really all about, and doesn't necessarily always make it as conducive to ElfQuest as possible. So Chaosium actually issued some ways that you can still play the game following their role-playing system, which is called the basic role-playing system. It's different than, say, Dungeons and Dragons. But to make it a little bit more simple, I think for ElfQuest fans, many of whom were not really into RPGs, the original rules were, again, maybe a little bit too dense. So that is right there on that very first thing that's in the book. The next thing is the elf book. Now, the very first thing you'll notice if you got the original version is that the cover is now in full color. The original books were not. The interiors are still black and white, but the elf book and all the other books in here that did not have full color covers now do. And so the book itself, is a black and white book. It contains all the rules. This is the book that players should definitely read. It covers things like magic abilities and all sort of the rules for, kind of moving through the landscape and, again, combat and things like that. It covers all the different elf tribes, including the ones that were introduced in the comic after 1984. So when the original game came out, the original Quest series had not fully finished yet. So it's really, set in that sort of little small snapshot of the world of ElfQuest, which of course has grown exponentially, both in, millennia and, going into space and everything in the actual ElfQuest comic. So this 40th anniversary edition incorporates some of that new stuff so that you can actually play it in any time period for ElfQuest. And that's some of the content that I got to help create. There's a bunch of new magic abilities that are, coming from later stories that were not introduced in the original Quest that you can now have your characters play. I gotta keep holding this up so you guys can see it. But anyway, it's a gorgeous book. The next book in the box is the World Book. And so this book gets into just some features of the world that you can kind of experience as a player. It's kind of a little bit more for game masters, the people who are going to actually be running the games, so that they can really build really good campaigns and have all the stats for example, all of the flora and fauna that characters might encounter. And this is the other area that I really got to help with that I'm very excited about. And that is coming up with all of these additional wildlife and creatures that are featured in the ElfQuest comics, but were not included in the original game. So if you want to pit your characters up against, I don't know, an animal like a shagback, which is this giant, wild cattle species, or pit them against the peacehounds, those monstrous creatures that Winnowill created in the Shard series, you can now do it because they are in here with descriptions and stat blocks. So lots of really cool stuff like that in here. There's also some new clips of art that we were able to incorporate into the interior of both the World Book and the Elf Book. Again, straight out of the comics, but from comics after the original Quest that were not created when the original game was created. So the next three books are the supplemental books that came out back in the 80s. One is called the ElfQuest Companion, one is called Sea Elves, and one is called Elf War. And these are pretty much straight up what they were originally released as. These are, additional materials, additional character sheets, additional adventures that you can play in this role-playing game. So they're all included in this new box. So those are the core books in here, but there's a lot of other really cool stuff in here. So one of the most awesome things about the original game was that really for the very first time, we got to see a map of what the world of Two Moons might look like. And I think for many ElfQuest fans, it's one of the coolest parts of the whole game. So this is the original map, and it really shows just a snapshot of the world that we knew during the original Quest. And again, we know that in the story world of ElfQuest, the world has expanded and they've explored new lands and everything that are not included on this original map. But it's really nice to get a fresh copy of this. I think a lot of people are probably gonna wanna frame this. But, and this I think is probably my favorite thing about the new edition of the game here, it is the all new map. And again, I got to do a lot of the work to help create this, so I am extra excited about it and extra proud of it. I worked with Richard and with Wendy too a little bit, and with the cartographer who works at Chaosium to really look at all of the different versions of maps that have been created over the years and to really blow this out in a lot more detail. So let me show it to you. It is full color, and it has what, as far as we know, is the whole world of Two Moons, but maybe there's more to it that we just haven't seen in the story yet that eventually will come out. But it's not just the one continent that we had in the original game. It's all of the other places. And one of the things that I did as my contribution being a lifelong ElfQuest nerd is that I got to pour through all of the comics and the books and everything else and try to identify as many places that that are mentioned in actual canon ElfQuest, and then figure out where those would actually be on the map. And so I used the 1990s versions of the world map that Richard Pini himself created, and those were not very detailed though. And so I was able to sort of, working again with everybody else, get a lot more detail onto this and figure out again where things are in relation to each other that was sort of true to how they were described in the comic. The comic never says, well, Howling Rock is this many days travel away from Thorny Mountain Holt or from the Howling Winds Holt or those kinds of things. So I had to sort of figure all of that out. And of course, Richard has reviewed and approved all of this. So anyway, that new map is pretty rad. So then there's a few more black and white kind of supplement sheets. So there's this kind of cheat sheet with a lot of the different stats and things that you'll need, especially if you're a game master, just so you could have this handy, so you don't have to be flipping through the books excessively. There's a little example of play. So again, if you're not an experienced role player, you can kind of walk through this. And what's interesting too is that it has all of the original ads and artwork from the original game. So there's actually I think it's in one of these I spotted an ad for the original ElfQuest miniatures from Ral Partha with a phone number to call and order them. Don't do that. Those have, they don't exist anymore. But again, this is part of the reprint of the classic game. Something else that is new is there is a whole supplement of nothing but character sheets. So if you flip through this, you will see all of these character sheet templates that are basically pages that were in the books, but we decided to pull them out so that you could actually have them as, you could fill them out in real size so they weren't just kind of these little things that were actually in the book. There's also a bunch of blank character sheets as well. So those are all in there. If you got the deluxe edition, there are also filled out character sheets printed for a whole bunch of characters. All the character sheets that were included in the original game, sort of, within the pages of the book, are now blown up in the deluxe edition, as well as a bunch of new characters. Now, if you didn't get the deluxe edition, you still have all those character sheets available in Backer Kit as downloads. So you can just download them and save them digitally. You can print them out if you want. Another new thing in this version of the game is this booklet of all of the covers of the original quest, both front and back. So this is just a nice little bonus add-on. Then there is this really neat, all new Game Master screen. So again, if you're not familiar with role-playing, the Game Master runs the game and typically will have a little bit of a this kind of thing blocking the view of the Game Master's notes and all of the other details that the Game Master doesn't want the players to see, so that it's not going to spoil anything or give it away. And so we've got some gorgeous Wendy Pini art on here. On the backside, let me show you the backside. Again, are sort of all the various things that a Game Master might want to have at their fingertips in terms of the rules of the game and things like, again, this is some of the crunchy stuff, but the wind strength table, if you are going to pit your characters against the windy conditions, armor points table, all the sort of rules, the crunchy rules for battle and attacks and things like that, and weapons and whatnot. So those are all right there for the Game Master. Oh, and I actually got something wrong. Included in the regular edition are those character sheets. So again, this is one of my contributions. I helped write the character sheets for all of the new characters that we added, many of whom were not introduced in the original quest, and even some that were but didn't have a character sheet. I also went through and updated all of the original character sheets because a lot of it was guesswork. Some of the ages were off, and so I kind of used my ElfQuest lore to, sort of update those and make them more consistent. So right here, we've got Audrey, there's Free Touch, we've got Flam, the troll now, there's Chemo and Kavi, Kavi was in the original game. There's Moonshade and Mender, all sorts of characters that you can actually play. Pike and Rainsong. Let's see who else. Oh, this is so cool. We've got Reef in here in both of his forms, in both his Wave Dancer form, but also in his Sea Monster form. And he's got different stats, so you can play him either way. So anyway, this is a really cool thing, at least I think, and will allow you to, right out of the box, play your favorite character if you want. Or again, if you're a game master, you could have your players encounter some canon characters in your adventure, and you'll have their stat sheets right there. All right, so we also, what role-playing game is complete without a set of dice? And these are kind of special, a whole set of special dice that were also part of the Kickstarter rewards. They are kind of a cool sort of green, woodsy, foresty kind of vibe with yellow numbers on there. We thought it was a little bit Wolf Ridery, so we went with these. So you got your full set of dice in there. And then last but not least, I know I keep saying this is the thing I'm most excited about, the map, the new character sheets, but I'm really excited about the fact that in this deluxe edition, something that was not included in the original game is a sheet of double-sided character standees. And they have stands as well. So these are cardboard, and you can pop them out, and again, you can see they're printed on both sides. And then what you do is you pop them out of the cardboard backing here, you put them on the stand, and then a lot of role players like to have a little visual representation of their character that they can place on the map or just kind of have next to their character sheet. It just adds a little, extra fun thing to the game. And even if you're not using them for that, you can see my ElfQuest swag shelf back here. I'm probably actually going to pop all of these out and just put them on display with all of my other ElfQuest bookmarks and challenge coins and figurines and standees and things like that. And so, again, we've got some classic characters from the original quest, but we've got some newer characters like Tyr in here. And we also have troll characters. So there's Drub and there's Flam, Picknose's offspring or descendants. So they're in there. And then check out some elves that you might not recognize by name. Let's see if we can do this without glare. So here is a Wave Dancer that Wendy drew. I can't really get a good clear picture there, but right here, this is a Wave Dancer. This is a Planesrunner elf. These are elves from tribes that were originally created for the role-playing game, the Sea Elves and the Plains Elves. And Wendy did these, these sort of character illustrations for the original game. Well, we decided to color them, and we've added them to these standees. So, you have some sort of, we call them non-player characters, I guess, or, actually, I suppose you could play them too. But at any rate, you have examples of some of these other tribes beyond the original quest tribes that you can let your imagination run wild with. So anyway, that is everything that is in the new box. Let me show you the back. The back of the box is pretty much identical to the original version. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that and you're excited. If you didn't support the Kickstarter and you don't have this game on its way to you, I hope you're excited about the possibility of getting it, because Chaosium will have copies of this game for sale. And I don't know how many or when they're actually going to be put up on Chaosium's website for purchase. I imagine it would be after everybody who backed the Kickstarter gets their copy. But those are shipping. I got mine today. I'm hearing reports of other people getting theirs. So hopefully in the next couple weeks, everybody around the world will have their copies of the game. The other thing I would love is to play the game with you. So if you haven't heard, we've got an ElfQuest Discord that has a big focus on the role-playing game. So if you're on Discord, it's called the ElfQuest Fan Halt. It's by invitation only. So, you can reach out to me at david@elfquest.com and I can get you the invitation to that. We haven't made it fully open to the world yet. But if you're interested in hooking up with people who want to play the game and some of whom are already actively running campaigns, the Discord is a great place to go. I know a lot of ElfQuest fans don't know other fans in real life, and in today's day and age, we can connect with each other virtually all around the world. So there's no excuse to not be able to have ElfQuest fans to play the role-playing game with. So definitely check that out. And thanks to everybody who backed this Kickstarter. It's really amazing to have this piece of ElfQuest history kind of in a new, sort of a breath of fresh air, some new content in it so that we can all enjoy it. And the last thing I'll leave you with is just a little bit of a teaser, because there are active conversations happening with Chaosium about an entirely new ElfQuest role-playing game, one that has a whole different set of rules, that's a lot easier to play, and again, that's maybe a little bit more conducive to the world of ElfQuest, which is less about battles with dragons and oftentimes more about relationships. So anyway, stay tuned for that. If you are not subscribed to the ElfQuest mailing list, go to elfquest.com, click join the quest, and sign up. If you're watching this in the Howl newsletter that I put together, you're already on the list, but we're eventually going to make this live on YouTube. And so hopefully some other people who are not on the list will get on the list, because it's the best way to keep in touch with ElfQuest and Warp Graphics, and make sure you get all the latest ElfQuest news and goodies and exclusive content. So anyway, Shade and Sweetwater, happy role playing.